following podcast is recorded and produced by Emerge, a media creators co-op.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Defion Productions podcast. I'm your host, the hardest working nobody in Bitcoin, Don. This is episode 109. Before we get started, I always forget to do this, so let's just start this off the right way. If you're not already subscribed to the podcast, please go to my YouTube channel, click the subscribe button, hit the notification button so you can be notified every time I go live. If you're watching this on X and you're not following me, please follow. All the good stuff, all the cool stuff. Let's get into the markets here. We do have Bitcoin up on the day in the last 24 hours, sitting at about 110,400, up about 2.2% in the last 24 hours, up about 1.91% in the last 7 days. The total market cap of crypto is at about 3.71 trillion. Fear and greed is at 28 fear, which is always wild to see when Bitcoin is sitting above, nicely above, being at 110, above 100,000, still being in the fear. It just kind of shows you where we're at in this cycle. Rest of the space, you can see Ethereum is at 3,800. BNB, there was some news with BNB today. If anybody was able to check it out, President Trump, he pardoned CZ, which is basically just a monumental, or not a monumental. I mean, he's been out of prison for almost a year now. He only served 4 months. I think it's more in respect to the fact that he'll be able to engage with, and I think he's already been doing it. It's just really weird. It's like he's not supposed to be involved with Binance, but everybody knows he's involved in Binance. So he can officially be involved with Binance now because he's been pardoned. And BNB coin moved as a result, but it looks like it settled back down. When the news was released, the price jumped a little bit, but it looks like after cooler heads prevailed in the market, it's back down 1.8%. XRP down to $2.40. Yeah, so it's a weird time in the markets right now. You got half of the people saying that we peaked out on October 6th when the price went to 126. The other half is saying that the bull market's still going to happen the parabolic top's going to happen at the end of 2025 into 2026. So you have two schools of thought, many people with many opinions. Nobody knows exactly. People will be right. People will be wrong. It's just is what it is. We can jump into this article here. Let's show this first. Congratulations to the United States of America as they officially passed $38 trillion in total debt. They're adding about 1 trillion USD every 100 days. That's just an astronomical number to think about. 38 trillion plus it's about 110,000. It's about, the debt is 1 Bitcoin per citizen, Rich. It's 110,635. So the average debt per citizen right now is officially the cost of 1 Bitcoin. How ironic is that? Per taxpayer, 327,000. So a little over 3 Bitcoin per taxpayer. U.S. federal spending is over 7 trillion. The federal budget deficit is 1.7 trillion. And we're adding $1 trillion of debt every 90 days, and our federal budget deficit is 1.7 trillion. It's just wild to take a look at and conceptualize, which brings us into this next article I want to read that has to do with our debt. The 7.4 trillion denominator, America's hidden liquidity bomb, about to obliterate every market assumption. The most dangerous number in financial history is hiding in plain sight. 7.4 trillion is parked in money market funds, which is crazy. That's a wild number. I wonder how much of that is left over from COVID. Not in stocks, not in real estate, not in gold, not in Bitcoin. In idle treasury bills earning 5% plus, waiting for a single Federal Reserve decision to unleash the largest capital reallocation event in human civilization. This isn't cautious investing. This is civilized coiled spring with a central bank trigger. The detonation physics. When the Fed cuts 150 to 200 basis points, MMF money income collapses by 100 to 140 billion annually. That lost yield must hunt returns somewhere. Each 1% of money market funds reallocation releases 74 billion. 10% rotation unleashes 740 billion, exceeding most nations' GDP. 20% exodus deploys 1.48 trillion into risk assets. The flows don't trickle. They cascade through institutional pipes like a breaking dam. The historical pattern nobody remembers. 1998, 1.3 trillion of MMF, Fed cuts, tech bubble ignites. 2003, 2.1 trillion money market funds. The Fed cuts, housing mania begins. 2009, 3.8 trillion money market funds, Fed cuts, everything rallies 300%. And here we are in 2025 with 7.4 trillion in money market funds, and we have an administration, the Trump administration, which is signaling that when Powell leaves in May, that they're going to put somebody in there who's going to sign on to the agenda where Trump and Besson have both said they want to cut interest rates 300 to 400 basis points, which is ridiculous. But it's not out of the realm of possibility that's going to cut between the 150 and 200 basis points that this post is insinuating. So what does that mean? Double the 2009 powder keg. But now Bitcoin exists as a 24/7 institutional grade scarcity with ETF rails. The four horsemen triggers. 3-month T-bills drops below 4% from 4.8. Fed confirms sequential cuts beyond one and done. High yield spreads compress below 350 basis points. Crypto ETF inflows sustained above 2 billion weekly. All four converging equals detonation sequence. The Bitcoin mathematics. Money market funds pile. 7.4 trillion at 5% yields. Bitcoin supply 21 million fixed. 96% already mined. BlackRock IBIT 100 billion under assets under management in under 10 months. If 5% rotates, that's 370 billion. Bitcoin 280 to 350K. If 10% rotates, 740 billion. Bitcoin 550 to 700K. If 15% plus sovereign wealth buying, it gets Bitcoin to 1 million plus. Not speculation, thermodynamics, finite supply meets infinite liquidity in mathematical collision. The mechanism. Money market funds flow through institutional architecture, prime brokerages rebalancing, pension allocation triggers hitting, corporate treasury deployments, sovereign wealth hunting uncorrelated returns, ETFs absorbing without selling pressure. Every pipe terminates at scarcity. Only one asset is provably finite, instantly settable, globally accessible 24/7, and that's Bitcoin. The Fed's choice. Keep rates high, have a recession, a debt spiral. Cut aggressively, $7.4 trillion liquidity tsunami. Bond markets price 150 to 200 basis point cuts through 2026. The choice is made. The spring releases. The countdown. When 3-month yields crater from 5 to 3%, capital doesn't deliberate. It hunts yield with systemic urgency. Gold supply, uncertain. Real estate, illiquid. Stocks, expensive. Bonds, debasing. Bitcoin, mathematically provable 21 million cap with instant global settlement. The largest dry powder pile in history aims at civilization's scarcest asset. The trigger is Fed policy in motion. The timing is bond market priced. The outcome is thermodynamic inevitability. When the spring releases, price discovery enters unknown physics. Choose accordingly. Now there's a lot there. There's a lot in that piece, and it gets people to the place where they don't think that this cycle, if you still believe in cycles, which I think we've broken cycles, but that's another conversation. It gets people to believe that October 6th, 126K Bitcoin, and subsequent 3 or 4 day later implosion of markets, which saw Bitcoin go all the way down to 102K, and halt levels that are threatening the bull market support band if you're a TA guy, and if we don't hit a certain level, that it's going to cascade more losses, and then that means the bear market, and we're going to be seeing 12 months of slow price depreciation, maybe diminishing losses because we had diminishing returns, and instead of losing 85% or 80%, maybe this cycle we lose 65 or 70. This blows all that out of the water, and this has people hyper bullish, believing that because we have Trump in office, believing that he wants these rate cuts and that Jerome Powell will no longer be our Federal Reserve president as of May, that the next guy that comes in that Trump is going to put in is going to understand the objective, which is to cut rates and to cut rates aggressively. And if they cut rates aggressively, this 7.4 trillion that's been parked in money market funds getting 5% is no longer going to be able to get those yields because rates are going to go down. So the yields are going to go down as well, and they're going to hunt places where they can park this capital to get those outsized returns. And as this article pointed out, all the options that they have, the gold supply, uncertain gold supply, no matter what you want to say about gold, no matter how parabolic it has gone, we still don't know how much gold exists. We probably never will. Real estate is illiquid. When you own real estate, it's not super easy to get in and out of really, really quickly. Stocks are very expensive at these levels, and bonds are debasing. So the only natural place to go that's super popular in this administration, that has ETFs now, that has a finite supply, is Bitcoin. So if this 7.4 trillion at a 10% level, 20% level, whatever the case may be, is going to start trickling into Bitcoin, it's a tsunami of liquidity that's going to come in, which we've been waiting for. There's charts that'll show you watching the global liquidity index and the correlation between, Bitcoin in that index, and it's lagging, and all these charts and stuff that you want to look at. But this 7.4 trillion that's just sitting parked in money market funds is a huge number. And when that gets released and it starts hunting a new asset to be into, and Bitcoin sitting out there with all the qualities that it has, that us Bitcoiners understand that it has, it's easy to see how quickly this thing can go. And it has people believing that the market is not over, that we did not top out at the beginning of October, that we're not in the beginning parts of a bear market. I tend to lean in that camp, not necessarily all because of this article, but I just think that we're in a much more mature market now, and that the cycles, if they ever existed, because I've been watching some good videos on just the coincidences that have kind of partaken along with what we've seen in regards to going up 3 years, down one, going up 3 years, down one. And if you take a really good look at each cycle, none of the quote unquote cycles look similar to the other ones. There's a lot of differences in all of these cycles and how they kind of reacted at different points of the cycle. So I think we're in a much more mature market now, and I think that we are going to see a good 2026 for Bitcoin. I think Bitcoin is going to crest at some point in the next 12 months that $200,000 number. I don't know when. I don't know if we're going to hold it. We may break it, and then it may, drop 50,000. But I think in the next 12 months, we see a $200,000 Bitcoin. Now, do I think we're going to see that by the end of this year? I do not. I do not think we're going to hit 200,000 by December 31st, nor really, if I'm being completely honest, do I want to see that. And the reason being is that means that we're going to go parabolic. And if we go parabolic, the likelihood of a blow off top and then, a slow regression mimicking, if you want to call it, whatever you want to call it, something resembling a cycle in a bear market is much more likely after an event like that. This stair stepping that we've done since 2024, moving our way up to, the 120s, we're seeding back down, going back up, and this gradual movement is showing a much more mature market. And I'd rather stair step up and instead of going up really, really quick and then losing 70% in a year. This is just much more rather see this. Here's what I've been talking about. Joe Consorti, good follow. If you don't follow him on X, you should. He's got a good YouTube channel as well. Very high alpha, good signal with Joe's channel. Since Trump's inauguration on January 20th, And this was tweeted out 12:16, so a couple of hours ago, as right now it's 3:18 p.m. Eastern Standard. Since Trump's inauguration on January 20th, Bitcoin is up 5.78%, the S&P 500 up 11.95%, and the NASDAQ up 16.17%. This year has been awful in bull market terms for BTC, underperforming the S&P 500 by more than half. So this has not been your typical 4-year cycle already. So if you want to just use this kind of as a point to kind of like draw from to see if the 4-year cycles are still intact or not, if you go back to the beginning of the year until now, like we have not really gained that much value from the first of the year until now. If you go back to 2021, if you go back to 2017, and you go back to 2013, from January to October to almost November, which is where we sit now, you can't say that same thing. Those years saw extreme price appreciation in all of those quote unquote cycle year after the halvings than we've seen in 2025. So I think we can already kind of say at this point that the cycles are broken, because we haven't had a typical post-halving cycle year from January until now. Now, sitting here today with the S&P more than double, the NASDAQ more than triple Bitcoin, do I think that those numbers are going to last much longer? No, I do not. I think that this little lull that we have in Bitcoin now is just Bitcoin consolidating before it makes its next move. And people may not want to hear this because people are still waiting for these astronomical numbers that a lot of these Bitcoin influencers like to throw out there, like, oh, 250K by the end of the year, or Samson Mao, we're going to hit $1 million a coin, or, whatever the case may be. Maybe the next stair step up is the 130s. We get past 126, we hit 130, 131, and then, we have another consolidation period. And then we do that for a couple of months. And then, we hit February, March, and we finally get to 150. And then we kind of see the same thing. And then May comes along and, Powell's out of office. We bring a new guy in. That's a new narrative. It's good sentiment. And, we get the next leg up. And it's kind of like what Bitcoin does now. You have these runs up to new all-time highs. And then, you have a little receding and you have choppiness and and all this stuff kind of happens, and this is just kind of the new reality. I think what happened this cycle, in my opinion, is that the shitcoining Bitcoiners got exposed. Because if you're just Bitcoin only, you have nothing to be upset about this bull cycle. In 2022, we bottomed out at 15K. As I'm filming this on October 23rd at 3:21, the price is 110,300. So from 15K to 110,300 in a little more than 3 years is a phenomenal return. If you're a Bitcoiner, you're extremely happy. If you've been DCAing and hodling and all the good, verbiage and words, you're very satisfied, in my opinion. The people that are not are the ones that own Ethereum, the ones that own XRP, the ones that own Solana, the ones that own all these other shit coins, Cardano, in the like Chainlink, Bcash, Btrash, all these other nonsense tokens that have long overextended their welcome in our ecosystem, in my opinion. Those are the people that are upset this cycle. Those are the people on crypto Twitter that you hear complaining. I mean, look at what just happened, a week and a half ago, or almost 2 weeks ago now, when, we had this market implosion where people lost tons of value and got liquidated out. Bitcoin didn't even go below 100,000. If you were holding from 15K and Bitcoin went from 123 to 102, but you've been a hodler since 15K, yeah, it sucks to see your value go down a couple grand, but in the grand scheme of things, you're way ahead of the game. The people that got obliterated are the ones that were trading or owned shit coins that, they had profits in that, then they went below profits because crypto coins significantly underperformed this cycle. And I'll say, as a Bitcoin maxi, that, I'm very satisfied to see the underperformance of crypto tokens, because Bitcoin maxis have been telling you for years to stop putting your value into shit tokens and to put your value in Bitcoin. Have a longer time horizon. And that strategy that people had of, well, I'm going to put my money in some shit coin and it's going to 2, 3, 4, 5, 10x. And then I'm going to use that to put into Bitcoin because Bitcoin's not going to give me the 10x. I would implore you, outside of maybe BNB and Solana, because Solana almost blew up with FTX and went down to single digits. And, Solana's at 190 now. Outside of those two tokens, I would implore you to find another token that gave you a 7x that Bitcoin gave you from 2022 until today. There are not many other of these shit coins that gave you the 7x that just putting it in Bitcoin would have given you. Ethereum, I think Ethereum at that time was like 1,500. So, you got a 2.5x from Ethereum if you're an ETH maxi. Congratulations. Good job. XRP, maybe you got a little bit of if you held at 30 cents, you got a 6 or 7x gain. And if you were holding XRP at 30 cents, I don't know what you were doing with your life at that point. You probably had it, because a lot of these XRP guys had XRP when it was $3 in 2018, and it hasn't hit an all-time high in 8 years. So you still haven't seen an all-time high or experienced an all-time high with XRP. Going down the line, the rest of these tokens like Cardano, I think it hit over $1 this cycle. I'm not sure, maybe, but it definitely didn't give you a 7x. Chainlink last cycle hit $50. I think the highest Chainlink's been this cycle is maybe 25 or 30. Bitcoin Cash, I don't even give that coin the time of day. Litecoin, a couple of weeks ago, the night before the big crash on Friday, there were rumors that there was going to be a Litecoin ETF, and there was some manipulation going on that we didn't really talk about. The ecosystem didn't talk a lot about because of what happened a couple of hours after. But Litecoin was pumping on Thursday night, because there was a belief that it was going to be given an ETF on Friday. It went from like under $100 to like 130 something. It pumped like 30%, and then went down to like $70 when all that craziness was going on during that wipeout. But like what Bitcoiners have been telling you for years now is to stop chasing pipe dreams in these altcoins, because they're eventually the market is going to catch up. Yeah, sure. In 2017, 18, and in 2020, 2021, you were able to catch some sick gains in some of these other tokens, and people were able to make a lot of money in shitcoins at those times. And there were a lot of different market dynamics at that time than are at play today. The market is much more mature. Mature institutionalized money is here, and they're looking at the good assets. They're not looking at these garbage shit tokens. Here's a really good example. If you could put this on the screen, Rich. This is Melania token. Okay. Trump launched his token on the night before he was inaugurated. Okay. Melania did it 2 days later. I believe it was like Friday night was Trump's token and Sunday was Melania's token. Melania's token opened at $14. It has lost 99.99% of its value. The sitting first lady, still pretty popular, sitting first lady with a meme coin that's started at $14, that's currently at 9 cents. I honestly have not looked to see what the Trump token. Take a look at what the Trump token is. $5.86.
What was its high?
I'm looking right now. $44. $45.47 on 119, which is inauguration night, right?
Some of those times that I can understand Bitcoin. I can understand many of these tokens. Why you think they're going to be something. But why would anyone think, forget about the Trump one, just go with the Melania one. What's behind it? Like, why does someone think that that is going to maintain value or increase in value. There's nothing behind it. Like there's not in it. There's no potential behind it. Like I just don't understand why someone falls for that. Are they just oblivious to the market and they heard that there's something new and fresh? Like it's like a project. Like, oh, I'm going to invest in this movie that they're going to make, and then it turns out it's a scam. But at least if you invest in some movie or something that you think's getting made, you think you're going to become a millionaire because the movie's going to be a big hit or something. But why would they think like what's Melania just because her name's on it? I just don't understand how that shoots up. Like I guess I don't understand because most of these don't do that. That one did, but I just don't understand it.
No, a lot of them actually do, but super, super, super quick. The thought process behind these, and again, I want to be a complete total disclaimer here. I am the last person to be considered an expert on meme coins. I've never owned a meme coin. I've never traded a meme coin. I watch it from a distance and I watch the carnage from the sidelines. So I'm saying this as a complete spectator. I have no inside information or expertise in meme coin anything. Let's get that out of the way. What I see it as is a complete and total grift. When Charlie Kirk got shot and killed, within minutes, there was a meme coin, Kirk meme coin. Within minutes, people made a Kirk meme coin to make money off of. Anything that's a narrative, anything that's popular gets put into a meme coin, and in many of these meme coins, they last minutes, maybe an hour, and this is what it is, Rich. It's musical chairs. You got to try to get a chair before they pull all the chairs out, and if you don't get a chair, you lose it all. That's what I see meme coins as. A really, really fast game of musical chairs, and the people with the inside information of the coin are the ones that usually get the chairs.
So this really goes back to, and I apologize, I guess my mic was low earlier. I guess it goes back to like I don't even miss that. I guess it is working. Sorry about that. One of your listeners commented that my mic was low. Thank you for that. It's like I remember like my grandfather telling me stories like when I was a little kid. He's like, yeah, I kind of bought into this thing, and it was going to be the next big thing. And I feel like this is just a modern version of the things that like our grandparents told us. Oh, I could have been a millionaire if I would have just bought into,
yeah. That's what meme coins are.
Like that,
Meme coins just take advantage of people's psychology, wanting to be a part of something. Meme coins try to sell you the ideology that there's quote unquote communities. You hear that word a lot with meme coins. Be a part of the meme coin community, whatever token it is. It's a grift. It's a complete and utter grift. Everybody involved with a meme coin knows what it is. They know it's not going to be anything that's going to hold any sort of significant value. There's very few that do. There's very few Doge coins. I think Pepe coin was considered a meme coin at one point in time, and that's still around. But most of these tokens end up dying off and going to like literal zero. Like
you have a comment too. I don't know.
Yeah, go ahead. I can't really see it from here.
Miguel Barney, your views if you want to be centralized or stay decentralized.
My view, if I want to be, I don't know if I understand the question.
Well, it says your views is you want it to be centralized or stay decentralized. I think he's asking your opinion on it.
What specifically?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know. But I don't know when he asked the question and what I was talking about in regards to centralization.
Okay. Sorry.
No, it's okay. I didn't realize that there was a.
Yeah,
if he comments again.
I didn't got behind on that.
No, it's okay. It's a little bit far from my eyes, and I'm getting old, and I can see writing. I just can't read what the writing is from where I'm sitting. Yeah. So basically, like these meme coins are just ways for people to manipulate psychology of people that want to be a part of something, that also want to mimic and replicate what Bitcoin has done, which, brand new people coming into the crypto ecosystem are so easily manipulated. They don't understand tokenomics. I'll take an example of like Dogecoin or Shiba Inu, they don't understand that in order for those tokens to get to $1, the market caps of those tokens have to be like almost the market cap of some of the very, very top tokens, which is just not going to happen. And there's not going to be the liquidity there because people don't care enough about those types of shitty tokens for you to even capitalize on that liquidity. Sometimes what happens in these shit coins or in these meme coins is that somebody will see that they get in at the right time and they put like $100 in there and they see it go up to 10 grand and they try to cash out that 10,000, but the liquidity doesn't actually exist for them to get that 10,000. And by the time liquidity comes in, their 10,000 goes down back to zero or less, or they'll never see that number. I've seen many like videos of people online that don't really understand the space and they get in to a meme coin luckily and somehow their portfolio goes to like 6 figures and they think they got all this money and they're trying to cash it out and they can't, and then by the time that they're able to, all the value's gone because it's a pump and dump. Like people are coming in, they're providing liquidity initially to make the coin pump up, people come in and buy, and they take and suck out all the money of the people. That it's very well orchestrated, and you're barely ever going to win that unless you're just like a super like technological, been in the what they call the trenches. I hate to even say it, it's so dirty, but like one of those guys that like just stares at a screen, is looking for the next meme coin on a daily basis, really good. And even those guys get wrecked. But like the odds of like John Q. Public coming in and making a ton of money off a meme coin is zero.
I guess I never understood about the liquidity, that it wouldn't be functional right away. That even though it's up high, it's on a computer screen, but you can't get it.
I told Troy on this podcast, one of the very first podcasts that we filmed at Emerge at the old studio, we were talking about meme coins. And I told Troy, before the pump and dump stuff, before the Melania, any of this shit, I said this cycle, meme coins are going to be a net negative to the entire. I was talking broader crypto, not just because he was the crypto guy, I was the Bitcoin guy, and he was like rah-rah the meme coins. And I said, be careful what you wish for, because new people coming into the space that should be buying higher quality coins, Bitcoin, but if you're a shitcoiner, at least buy a top one of those shitcoins that's not going to go to zero, are coming in with new dollars that are never going to get the opportunity to stay long enough to own Bitcoin, because they're going to get burned by all these stupid meme coins, and they're going to think, Kirk coin or whatever token, crap meme coin token, is a representative of the entire space, is Bitcoin. They're going to leave with a bad taste in their mouth, and it's going to cause bad effects in the system. And again, I think part of that, it's a small part. I don't give it a ton of credence, but some of that is why we had the stunted 2025 that we did. Because a lot of the money, at least for the crypto space, for sure, it definitely significantly adversely affected crypto tokens, because the money that would have went into those crypto tokens went into the gambling casinos of those meme coins, and these developers that developed these coins took the money out of the system because they created these shitty tokens. People came in with new money, they lost all their money there, and then they just said, F it, I'm not going to do this anymore, and left the system. And I said that 2 years ago on the podcast, right at the beginning, I think before the ETFs were even released. It was like end of 2023 that me and Troy had the conversation on this podcast, and he was like rah-rah on the meme coins, and he was all like excited about meme coins. And I said, dude, be careful. And Pump.Fund was not even created yet at that time, I believe, or it just got to be a complete meme coin casino. And I said, be careful what you wish for, man. Like, it's fun, the gambly stuff, and like throwing a couple dollars here and there, but like, if people come in there and they start losing some significant money, it's going to affect the entire rest of the space. And lo and behold, it did. All right, moving on to next article. Google searches for dollar debasement soar to the highest level in history. So if you haven't been paying attention, if you don't watch CNBC or money shows or the like, there's been a lot of conversations about dollar debasement, which is the ethos of why Bitcoin was created, because the dollar is debasing by the day. Less and less buying power. You can buy less and less things with your dollar. Gold going parabolic kind of reignited that conversation, and people were talking about the debasement trade. the debasement trade being gold, and then Bitcoiners coming in and saying that it's going to start with gold and then eventually bleed into Bitcoin. So the debasement trade being gold and Bitcoin. So the largest ever Google searching of debasement, dollar debasement, happened this week, which people are starting to, which I think is good, because if they're learning what debasement is and what dollar debasement is, even if they're not rushing to Bitcoin, it's good that they're getting educated and understanding. Because like I said, we say this in the podcast all the time, Rich, like I want people to understand the system that they operate in now and understand that first before they get to Bitcoin. So doing your due diligence, research, and understanding of what's happening in the system that you operate in on an everyday basis is extremely vital and extremely important to you being educated and eventually moving into something like Bitcoin. This is a very funny video that I'm going to show. If I could pause it. It's not letting me. It was not letting me pause. All right, let's try that again. All right, here we go.
Financial system, and there is an infinite amount of cash at the Federal Reserve. An infinite amount of cash at the Federal Reserve. An infinite amount of cash at the Federal Reserve. Don't you want somebody love? Don't you need somebody love? Wouldn't you love somebody love? You better find somebody to love. Don't you want somebody love? Don't you need somebody love?
The guy at the beginning of that video is a federal board governor, Kashkari, who notoriously spoke, I believe that was 60 Minutes, during the COVID crisis, when they asked him about, will we run out of money? Will we be able to pay this money back? Yada, yada, yada. And he's like, the Fed has infinite amounts of money. We can just print our way out of anything.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
When the video, I mean, like, that was the thing, like, I had a weird debate about somebody the other day, and these online things about the money going to Argentina. We're sending this money. You realize, and I said to the person, it's not real money. And I go, no, we collected that money. We got that money from the tariffs or whatever the guy said. I was like, okay. But regardless, I go, do you think that they went into a bank? Like, it's not like you go, my wife wants $20 for lunch. So I go into my wallet and I find $20 bill and I'm like, here's $20, here's for your lunch. Like, because she doesn't go to the cash machine because she hates that. But that's not what we did when we give money to, like, we just said, yeah, there's some fake money. Go and take it. And then you've talked about buying back our own debt with our own money. Like, again, that's not real money. It wasn't money that was it's not real money that we have. So what this guy said is right. It's infinite because it's not real. It's just, we just print it. I might as well just go over my printer and just scan some dollars. I mean, I get arrested for that, but like,
it's a Ponzi scheme.
It's a Ponzi. It is. But like this idea that, oh no, but like, we're going to save this money by, it's not real money. It's not money that's being collected. It's not like that $20 was earmarked, $20 billion was earmarked because $20 billion came in and we can see it in a pile. It's not real money.
You really want to go down a rabbit hole and piss some people off. I'm a libertarian-minded taxationist theft guy. Always have been. You're never going to get me off that bridge, especially when you get to the conversation of printing money and the fact that we do not need to tax people to fund anything because we just print it when we have shortfalls. So if we print it when we have shortfalls, why don't we print the whole thing and let people just keep the money they work hard for? The reason why we have taxes is not to fund anything in the government. The sole reason that we have taxes, you know why, Rich?
I mean, I know what I learned in 10th grade,
which is inaccurate. Which is inaccurate. Yep.
It used to be that, but not anymore. It has been that way in a long time.
Surveillance and control.
Oh, for sure.
It's the only reason why taxation still exists. Sure. It's the only reason why they can look at you with a straight face when you can show them the man behind the curtain, when you're like, dude, I can see the guy behind the curtain right now in Oz. Like, I know that the wizard doesn't exist, that you're just printing money. And we know that you're just sending money overseas. That's not taxpayer money. We know that you have a $2 trillion shortfall that's going to probably balloon to 5 within the next 10 to 15 years. And you're going to keep printing and printing and printing to cover that. So why are you taking money from my paycheck? And they can just look at you and say, because we have to, knowing that it's because of surveillance and to monitor what we're doing. It's just another way for the government to have control. That's it. That's all it is now. It's the only reason why taxation still exists. They do not need to tax us to fund government. What's happening right now, Rich?
Well,
what's going on in government right now?
well, at the federal level, essentially
Nothing.
technically nothing.
Absolutely nothing.
Technically nothing. Although, but not really, because we're still doing this, and certain things are still being paid for, and and some people aren't getting paid, but they still have to work because they have no choice, and it's just. But we also can see, and I don't. I mean, and it's the funny thing, and you and I talk about this all the time, and it's hilarious because the amount of people that were like, well, it's Charlie Schumer's fault, or it's Johnson's fault, or it's Trump. It's like. It doesn't matter. It's all their faults because it doesn't matter. I don't care who your guy is or who your gal is. They're not going to be better when they come in. They're going to play the same game. And yes, the Republicans have shut down the government more than Democrats have. But here's the thing that drives me crazy. Pay attention. Everybody thinks they know things, but they don't understand. Well, okay, so let's assume you're a Democrat supporter. The big thing is well, he controls the House and the Senate. I'm like, do you know the vote threshold to reopen the government? It's not a simple majority. It's 60 votes. They don't have 60 votes in the Senate. So it's stop, pay attention, do some research, have a sense of what you're talking about. It's annoying to me. And yes, because they don't want this and they want to, and all the lies come in, but they're all falling. Everybody falls for the same stuff that somehow, if their guy has control, that somehow their life's going to get better when they don't realize that the guy that's screwing you is the guy that set up the rules, is why you're hurting in the first place. And it doesn't matter if it's a different guy. It's the same guy sitting in a chair in a building in Washington.
Let's play this video real quick. This is Tucker Carlson, who spoke at a Turning Point event.
Tucker.
He seems to have a good idea who he thinks Satoshi is, the creator of Bitcoin. So let's listen to Tucker in his own words.
Who Satoshi was? The creator of Bitcoin, this mysterious guy who apparently died, but nobody knows who he was. I grew up in D.C. primarily in a government family, so CIA. That's my guess. Can't prove it, but you're telling me to invest in something whose founder is mysterious and has billions of dollars of unused Bitcoin. What is that? And no one can answer the question, including some of the biggest holders of Bitcoin in the world. Do I know personally? They're like, oh, it doesn't matter. It matters to me, right?
There's a very smart individual, regardless of how you feel about him politically or what his views are. You can't deny the fact that the guy is intelligent. Yet, here's a guy that can't understand that it's irrelevant of who Satoshi is. And to think, and let's play a game. Let's pretend that the CIA created Bitcoin, okay? I put a tweet out earlier I posted in the Bitcoin Army community, because there's a lot of Bitcoiners that are post 2020, 2021 Bitcoiners. They weren't around in 2014, 2015, 2016, when absolutely nobody gave a shit about Bitcoin. The exact opposite actually was occurring. Everybody shit on Bitcoin, from mainstream media to the masses on Twitter, if you ever talked about it, to the guy at the local grocery store. Everybody thought it was a scam. They thought it was trash. Why would you put your money in it? if the CIA was the creator of Bitcoin, they are playing the longest of long game, because the government was against us. The entire government for 4 years was trying to end us, literally. and to put it into context, our president was in a coma for like 3.5 of those 4 years. He had an auto pen. There's somebody else that could have easily been manipulated by the CIA to say, hey, whoa, buddy, pump the brakes for a second. We created this thing. Let's make sure we let this thing grow. They did everything but that with that administration. And so if you subscribe to the belief that the CIA is behind everything, because that's what Tucker's really saying here, and that's what anybody who believes this stupid theory would think, is that the CIA is behind JFK, the CIA is behind every single thing on the planet, then the CIA would have, during 2020 to 2024, said, hey, Liz, why don't you cool it off a little bit on the whole Bitcoin and crypto thing? Right. Hey, Joe, the guy with the auto pen, can you kind of ease up on those Bitcoin guys? We're kind of trying to make this thing work. That's not what happened.
Well, I got a great counter to that. Da Vinci. Da Vinci was an alien. Okay, let's start a conspiracy theory. I don't know. It's probably online that Leonardo da Vinci was an alien.
Oh, Jesus.
Let's just, I don't know if it is, but let's assume that I state that. Does that mean any of his artwork no longer has value? It doesn't matter, because the art exists and it has value. If anything, that might raise the value of it, because, it was done by an alien. There might be someone who want to buy it because it's proof that it was an alien. I'm just making stuff
up. Or you're right,
but
the other side could happen too, which is
right.
which is good. The other side is that initially it sells off and people are like,
but it doesn't,
oh my God,
it doesn't matter who created
what ends up,
it.
What ends up happening is what happened with Bitcoin, and I will admit that it would probably happen, is if we did find out who Satoshi was or the coins moved, the price would initially drop. And I've been on camera, on record, saying that if the one of what I think, and I think there's very few, if any, but one of the only threats to Bitcoin, which isn't even really a threat, but if I'm gun to my head and I have to say what is one of the threats to Bitcoin, I would say that Satoshi's coins move, or we can verify who Satoshi actually is, because that sentiment and that narrative would definitely have an effect on the price initially. But the fact that there's only 21 million coins, those million coins, if moved, would be redistributed into the network and into new hands. New people would own the Bitcoin, and the network would do what the network does. Will that be a 3 or 4 year bear market for us right now? Sure, but playing the long game and this thing being something that's going to exist for eternity with true scarcity, the only asset that has true scarcity, the long term is still bright, regardless of what happens initially. So again, a smart guy like Tucker thinking that, well, I don't know who Satoshi is, so I can't invest in this. Do you know who the Goldman Sachs people are? Do you know who's managing your money manager? Do you know who's his supervisor? Do you know, you don't know all the things in traditional finance, and every single person that's involved in that, you probably, even as smart as he is, can't explain how the United States debt-based Ponzi scheme even works on a fundamental level. But you're hung up on the fact that you don't know who Satoshi is, so you can't invest in Bitcoin. And the point is that Tucker is a very smart, high IQ individual, and even a guy like that, it gets hung up on, well, I don't know who Satoshi is, so I can't put my money in that. So let me keep these fake dollars that have nothing behind it, that's continually debased year after year and buys less and less shit.
I mean, let's assume that he didn't say that. He said that on purpose. He said it because he has an agenda. What's his agenda then? What's his reason for pulling legitimacy of Bitcoin into question with a pretty good following? I mean, he has a pretty good following out there. A lot of people really like him. So what advantage is for him to state that? Or does it just add
ignorance
to his own current
It's
lore,
ignorance.
his lore?
It's just ignorance.
Do you think it's just ignorance?
It's just
not
pure ignorance.
Calculated?
It's pure ignorance, because he's had conversations, and he's kind of insinuated, he's talked to some big holders. He's had conversations with Michael Saylor. He's had conversations with people that understand the network. It's ignorance. It's just pure ignorance. And I believe that somebody posted too that he's been on record saying that he's not a very good investor. He's not very good at investing and understanding the money, but he makes a ton of it. He's made a lot of money at Fox. He's made a lot of money, currently with the ventures that he has now. So he makes and generates a lot of revenue. But it just goes back to say that you can be wealthy and have a large income and still have no fucking clue how money works. I want to direct your attention to this tweet here as we start to wrap things up. This is a really good tweet by Richard Dick Whitman on X. Good follow. Tucker Carlson, the CIA is Satoshi. Retarded.eths, Jack Dorsey is Satoshi. Bcashers, Adam Back is Satoshi. BSVers, Craig White is Satoshi. HBO, Peter Todd is Satoshi. XRP Bros, whatever some influencer on TikTok or Instagram told me. Bitcoiners, just shut the fuck up. Perfect.
I love that. That's great.
Perfect. Absolutely perfect. Just shut the fuck up. Stay humble. Stack sats. It doesn't matter who Bitcoin is. The last Bitcoin block will be mined in 2140. Even if we advance technology to ridiculous levels, and somebody born today who will be 115 years old at that point in time, I would say what? 1 or 2% of the population that's on the planet right now maybe will be alive when that last block is mined. And I can say very confidently that nobody with a consciousness alive right now will be able to have any idea of this whole Satoshi conversation in the year 2140 when that last mined Bitcoin is mined and put into the ecosystem. So, I mean, it's a fun conversation. We have it often in Bitcoin, but at the end of the day, it's getting its rounds because Tucker spoke at a big Turning Point event, and it's getting the rounds. But we talk about this, I feel like, every couple of months, and then we're never going to know. This thing has gone from nothing to worth billions, and those million coins have not moved in 16 years. What is he waiting for? $1 trillion? Like when it crossed $1 billion, he didn't do anything. When it cost $10 billion, he didn't move. When it crossed $100 billion, they didn't move. We're never going to find out. Those coins are never going to move. Let's move on from these ridiculous conversations. Shout out to Florida. I'm going to put this on the screen real quick. Shout out to Florida. If Florida abolishes property tax and already doesn't have state income tax, it's going to be very hard to justify not moving there, financially speaking. So Florida already doesn't have state income tax. And DeSantis is on this push to abolish which if you can't see through that, if you can't see the writing of that, like what that's telling you, the fact that a governor is like, we can just abolish property taxes, and you're like, well, how are we going to pay for things? How do you it's like, dude, we just push a button and we pay for shit. Like, we don't need the property taxes. So if I'm a governor, I'm like, hey, how do I keep power? Well, I don't really need the people's money anyways. It's just let's just abolish property taxes. If I need revenue, we'll just hit the money printer and we'll get the revenue to pay for things. And people will be happy and they'll want to move here and give us more money. Wild shit. I guarantee you, if Florida abolishes property taxes, they will not be the last state to do that. There will be other states that fall in line with that because property taxes are a scam, just like income tax is a scam. The fact that you have to pay to rent your property to the government perpetually, even after you own the note on the house, and I say own with quotations because you don't own it because you're paying property taxes, is just criminal. The spike in real estate that you're going to see of people selling properties in other spots and moving to Florida, paying cash for homes, owning them outright and having no more money to pay because they have no property taxes to pay is going to be astronomical. It will be a sick move for Florida. The Florida will be overcrowded if that happens. Big real estate people will definitely move to Florida if that happens. Most definitely. There'll be a really good conversation for being a real estate person in Florida over any other state, because the fact that you can own property there and one of your hugest expenses gets knocked off. Like, think about having a portfolio of like 20 properties and you're making profit on those properties, and all of a sudden you no longer owe property taxes on those properties that you own. That's money in your pocket that you no longer have to pay out. It's instant profit into your pocket. Your bottom line just expands. And then the upkeep that you can do, or the renovations that you can do, because you're no longer paying that to the state, you can now put it into your properties. You'll see nicer buildings. It's just the knock-on effects are just huge. All right. I was going to speak on this article really quick. Going on non-crypto wise, big arrest happening earlier today. It has nothing to do with Bitcoin. It has to do with gambling. I think I'm going to save it for next week because I want to see the stuff that comes out. Really quick, Chauncey Billups, who is the current head coach of the Portland Trail Blazers, who literally coached the game last night, was arrested early this morning in this huge multi-state gambling ring that the feds cracked open. Multiple NBA players involved, multiple celebrities involved. Allegedly, La Costa Nostra and the Mafia were involved. And I just find so much hypocrisy in this. The fact that all four major sporting leagues, you cannot watch a commercial for more than 35 seconds and not see a DraftKings commercial, not see a FanDuel commercial, not see a BetRivers commercial, and not see some other random gambling site commercial. And the audacity for them to be like, I can't believe all these players are gambling. I can't believe people are gambling. It's like, we have gotten so stupid in this country. It's just beyond just comprehension. And I wanted to kind of talk about this. But as I was driving in and I saw this article earlier, there was some newer information coming in, and I feel like at some point along the line there is some crypto or Bitcoin that's probably associated with some of these transactions behind the scenes, and it might give it some more juice to speak on. So I'm going to see what happens in the next week, and maybe we'll talk about this story next week. We're coming up on the hour, so we'll kind of end this podcast as we always do. Please, if you haven't already, subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're trying to make our way into, getting up to 1,000. We're in the 500s for subs, trying to get up to the 600s. Really quick, I want to announce that I'll probably soon be doing a collaboration with a TikToker. With a large following. I'm gonna be collaborating with him. We're in the process of negotiating to talk about when we'll be doing that, to give some Bitcoin education on his channel and his platform. He's got a big TikTok platform and a lot of people that engage in his community. So I'm looking forward to that opportunity, helping grow my community through him. So we'll talk about that in the future. As always, don't trust, verify. Thanks for watching. Have a great week. Peace.